Well, if you're not new to the beauty community, you probably know what all of these gold sequins mean. Yep, that's right. I bought a Pat McGrath palette. Now, if you guys watched my recent Sephora Fantasy Basket video, you'll know that I put in one of the Pat McGrath eyeshadow palettes, coming in at $125. Did I buy that palette to try out with you guys today? No. Actually, what I got was a much smaller, less fancy packaging in the Eye Ecstasy Subversive palette. I just thought that this would be a really great way to test out Pat McGrath formula and see if it's worth that hefty price tag. What I have a feeling happened is that Pat McGrath decided to really not necessarily cut corners, but cut costs on this packaging. This is just a basic plastic package. Obviously there's no mirror, but you do get 5 shades to test out, and I thought that this would be a great way to test out the formula and see if it's worth the price tag. So this palette is $25 and I'm really excited to give it a go. Obviously these are all either metallic or really a very shimmery shadow, so I am going to pair it with another palette just so we'll have some mattes to work with. But if you're interested in seeing my thoughts on Pat McGrath Shadow, then just keep watching. And just so that you guys know, I now have gold sequins all over the carpet in here, so I hope you enjoyed that intro. But let's talk a little bit about this palette. This will be the palette that we use to go along with those beautiful shimmer shades. I just figured we'd need some mattes for a really cohesive look, and this is the Too Faced Just Peachy mattes. So we'll go ahead and get started. I am thinking that I'm gonna try to use a few shades in here, just so at least 3 of these, just so I can really see what this formula really does. So we'll see how this turns out. Let's go ahead and I'll zoom in. All right, so I'm just gonna start out with Peach Tea, which is just a nice muted toffee brown, just to get a little bit of crease definition before we go through with any of these colors. So like I said, I really think, the packaging on this palette is I hate to say it, but it's less fancy than drugstore. It's just really a very simple kind of clear case, and it definitely feels a little lightweight. So I think that that's really why this palette is only $25, and I'm gonna go ahead and I will post up here the size of these shadows versus the size in her other palettes, like the $125 ones, just so you can kind of compare. But I just really thought that this would be a great way to, get an idea of how these formulas work. Now, you guys know me, the first time that I'm trying out shimmer shades, I don't go through with them wet. So I will not be spraying any of these with Fix Plus or anything, just so that I can really see the true, reflectiveness of this, or the true ease of getting that metallic sheen. So I'll probably do some with my brush and then a little bit with my finger. I know that a lot of people prefer to put on metallics with a finger just so that you get, a really high gloss look. But I hate using my fingers. So I'll probably just do it for the sake of showing you guys, but in every day, that's not something that I like doing all that much. Maybe if I'm just doing a halo eye and I just need to do a little dab, but other than that, it just drives me nuts to use my fingers. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start out with that. So let's take a look inside this palette. Now, like I said, this is really I'm trying to think what this sort of reminds me of, but it's really your most basic packaging. The sticker on the back looks almost like pilot packaging or tester packaging. So definitely, this is not the palette to get if you are a total package snob, but to me, what's inside really matters the most. So we do have 5 shadows in this palette. I will be swatching those for you and I'll insert a picture, but we have Lapis Luxury, Gold Standard, Crimson Fire, Blue Blood, and Synthetica. So like I said, I'm gonna try to use as many of these as possible. I think I'm gonna start out with the Crimson Fire shade, and that's that nice burgundy shade. And I think what I'll probably end up doing is using this brush on the inner and outer corners and then dabbing some of that gold shade in the middle. That way I can really see how this plays with finger and brush. This is a rust with almost a pink little bit of a flip to it. So it's, I think, as far as really dark shades go, this is very wearable. I don't know if this is going to be $125 worth, but so far I'm definitely not mad at buying this palette because this color is gorgeous. I love a good like burgundy shade on the eye, and there's something different about the shade. And I think that that's one thing that, you know, I've heard a lot about Pat McGrath. She's not just throwing out the same shades that everybody else is doing in every palette. And I think that there's some value to that. So I really like this. There's just that like je ne sais quoi about this one. I'm definitely gonna end up like cleaning this up out here, but I'm okay with that. That's what concealer is for. And I just went and like pressed this with my finger to like blend into the middle. Like I said, we'll go in with that gold shade, but I think that this kind of like gives us a little bit of a smudge right there in the middle, so we don't have as much problem blending when we put the little gold on the top. So right away I'm going to dip into that matte palette again. This is Peach Cobbler. It's just a little bit more of a warm shade. So I just took that Peach Cobbler shade in there and just blended out, just to kind of like give it a little bit more warm. So really all I've used is these two shades right here. We're gonna take a little bit of that Gold Standard. This color looks really cool. It's like gold with almost like a neon green like kick to it. This is gonna be fun. And I'm just gonna press that on. These do feel really creamy, but not so creamy that they're gonna like be really creasy. You know, if you get something that has like too much of an oil base to it, it just tends to slide around a little bit. All right, so taking the Wayne Goss 20 brush, and I just used that earlier to soften up the edges of that burgundy, but I'm gonna go back through and just see what happens if we put this over the top. Yeah, I think it actually like blurred it out. Can you guys see that? So that really tells me that, you know, if you're wanting intense pigment from these, you're going to want to apply them with a finger, which I mean, I think is like all metallic shades, but I don't know. That's one thing that it's like, okay, but if it's what applies to all metallic shades, then why would I ever spend $125 on a palette when it's doing the same things that, you know, a $50 palette would do? So that is something to keep in mind. That being said, I still think that this is beautiful, so I'm just going to take a little bit more on my finger. And I do really like taking a brush just on those outsides to sort of blend that, because then I feel like we almost have like an orangey rust shade right where these two meet from where we used the brush to blend. And you guys will see a lot of times I just take a brush to like blend that out. I'm not wanting like a cut crease or anything. I'm just still wanting those edges really nice and blurred. Just so you guys can see as we're moving along here, like there is no denying that these are some really pretty shadows. Like there is just something a little different to it. Like this shade is so different the way it catches the light. Like it looks, like I said, a little bit almost like pinky shift, and then it really gets into that more like burgundy when it's not directly hitting the light. So I just went through and added a little bit more concealer just to kind of clean up that line. Like I've said in a previous video, I just tend to like drop this a little bit lower down than what I want to do, but it's really easy to clean up. So what I think I'm gonna do is go through and like mimic the effect of the halo, but use this on the outsides and then this guy in the middle. So I don't know if I've ever done anything like that before where it's like a mismatching halo, but let's give it a go. So I'm just taking Wayne Goss 20. Is this a 20? How can they both be 20s? Okay, I'm so confused. Wayne must have like changed his numbers at some point, and I know he has a new pencil brush because this brush is a 20 and this brush is a 20. They are obviously not the same brush. So I'm gonna take this bigger pencil brush and creating that same halo effect on the outside and the inside. Now I hadn't swatched all these colors before I went ahead to start doing this look, which was probably pretty dumb, but this Blue Blood shade is not quite coming out the way that I thought it would. It's definitely more purple and less, I don't know, like deeper burgundy. I mean, I knew this was going to be a cooler shade than what we did on top, but it's definitely got major purple vibes. So going in with something a little bit smaller, I'm taking the E21 from Sigma. We're just playing with eyeshadow for the sake of playing with eyeshadow. I just wanted to test out as many of these colors as I could. So now we're gonna go through with that top shade Lapis Luxury, again on an E21. So I think I just want to soften this line a little bit so it's not so harsh. I'm going to go through with that first matte shade we used, Peach Tea, and a Sigma E30 pencil brush, and just run that along the very, very edge. Whew, okay, this just got like real out there real fast, like very dramatic. So I have to say I'm not like the hugest fan of this color, and I kind of wish that I had gone through and done the swatches for you guys first, because I probably would have stuck to not doing too much with that one. I think it'll be great for like a smoky eye on the top of the lid, but it's one of those shades that if you touch it, it changes colors. Like the minute I started like trying to blend it, some of the reflectiveness would kick off and then it was left to be like a dusty plum instead of the purple. So I don't know. I'm not the hugest fan of that. I'm going to just like intensify these corners. Okay. I think we're just at the point where we just need to stop touching it. So I really liked every shade except that one, the Blue Blood. Is that what it's called? Yeah, Blue Blood. I obviously didn't use Synthetica. That's the purple one in here. I'm going to go ahead and insert those swatches now, and I will throw on some mascara and I'll be right back. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed the world's worst cheap looking swatches of probably the most expensive eyeshadows out there. I really need to get on my swatching game and like get better at that. Now, like I said, I wish that I had gone through and swatched this palette before I started playing with it, but I just really found some things when I was swatching. So I will say that I think that this shade and this shade are the strongest as far as like that really true metallic pigment. This gold one looks super reflective, and I'm sure if you really pack it on with your finger like I did, or if you use it wet, it's gonna come out really reflective. But when I did that arm swatch, I did like 2 passes over it. Now, when I go through, I don't like dig in, but I did just do like 2 lighter layers to really build up that color. So the intensity of that one isn't like super, super foiled in my opinion, but the one that really surprised me was this purple down here. And if you guys saw that, it's almost like that gray shift with just some purple reflex in it. So I think when you look at it, you're thinking that you're gonna get like, just like that really like jewel toned purple, and that's not at all what you're gonna get out of this. That isn't necessarily bad. This is gonna be a fun one to be able to play with, but if you're looking at this and thinking like, oh, that's a beautiful jewel toned purple, you're going to be surprised. So I guess that's maybe some of the pros and cons of Pat McGrath formulas, or at least some of, the shades, is like they have a beautiful shift, but that's also something that could maybe like steer you in a direction that you weren't looking to go because you thought it was going to be one way and it ended up being another. Especially right now in a world where we can't go into stores and swatch colors. I actually picked this up at the Sephora store, ran in real quick to return some things from like during quarantine, and I had to basically be like, can you open that little palette for me so I can look at it? And neither of us like touched it, swatched it, and I was like, oh, like she had the 2 of them there, the more neutral one and then this more colorful one. Of course I have like a bajillion and one neutral, so I really wanted to try out these colors, but I wasn't able to play with them. So in a world where you can't swatch things anymore, it's a lot. I mean, especially if you're gonna buy one of those bigger, more expensive palettes, that's a lot of money to spend when you really can't see if the proof is in the pudding. So am I disappointed that I got this? No, not at all. I think I'm really gonna have a lot of fun playing with this. This is a great palette to have to pair with a matte palette like that Just Peachy or the Dose of Colors Baked Browns that I used in my recent video. So I'm very excited to be able to try this. I'm glad that I was able to try Pat McGrath at a $25 price point rather than like $120 or $125, whatever those bigger palettes are. So I didn't exactly make my Sephora fantasies come true, but I was able to do a little dreaming. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will continue to play with these shadows and give you guys an update in a review roundup in the future. But for now, don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on those future videos. Now, if you guys would like another video to watch, or if you're curious about the mascara on my eyes today, I just tried on for the very first time and reviewed the Hourglass Unlocked Instant Extensions Mascara. So I'll leave that one up in the description box for you guys. And thank you again so much for supporting my channel, and I will see you really soon.